We're getting ready for the Ole Miss rankings release from the CFP's initial playoff rankings tonight on ESPN. Where will the Rebels land? Will they be above Oregon? We're going to bring in Daylan Flowers, and we're going to watch along and react in real time. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media with Yahoo Sports and a former Ole Miss staff member as well. We're going to bring in Daylan Flowers in just a moment from the Rebel Walk to break this rankings release down. It's just starting now. We are going to have a watch-along on this since you probably don't have YouTube TV. Anyway, thanks for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen every day, and please give us a like, subscribe, and comment. On your way out and check out a second listen on the network. Nearly every college and pro team is available. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Daylan, one thing's interesting here. They're getting ready to start the rankings and release them. They're going to give their top 25. One thing that I am watching in this game is Oregon ranked above Ole Miss? Because if Oregon's ahead of Ole Miss, that means this committee is throwing strength of schedule completely out the window.
It's funny you say that. I literally had just had a conversation with a buddy about that earlier today. I think when you buy into the fact that, you look at Oregon's schedule and their one loss comes to ahead of them already ranked Indiana, and that game was at home in Eugene as well. You take advantage of, okay, let's look at Ole Miss's schedule. They had one loss on the road to Georgia, and a close but heartbreaking loss, just like the Oregon loss was for Indiana. And how do you decipher that? I know LSU's not ranked anymore, but Ole Miss has a ranked win over, at the time, LSU, a ranked win over Oklahoma. And as well, it's not just the wins, it's now the point of margin. They took care of South Carolina to extend that point difference total moving forward. And I think the collection of wins this season has been a little bit more substantial for Ole Miss. And when I say that it looks like a more of a team effort on this Ole Miss team. It's not just a quarterback. It's not just a running back. It's not just a great wide receiver. There is a collection of things that has strived this Ole Miss team to be so great this season on the offensive side of the ball and the defense side of the ball when they've showed in the right moments. But I really think, this is a topic that really stems on last year when you look at Ole Miss missing out on the playoffs. And of course, the South Carolina, Alabama, hot teams that were in the SEC that were 9-3, but ended up missing out on the playoffs. What is the college football playoff committee looking at? We really don't know, and we've been saying this since it started over a decade ago. And then it built into the question, okay, if you're an Ole Miss fan, does it even matter? If you're in the playoff, if you have the chance to be a home field advantage, is that what matters the most? But I do think you have a great point. This tonight is going to be very revealing in terms of where Ole Miss is placed and what they do moving forward to see if they can get in front of some of the teams that may not even drop much if, they don't see each other at other conference championship games.
Yeah, and South Carolina was a garbage team. We're not saying they're not. They struggled offensively over the course of that whole game. Ole Miss winning that game was the biggest winning that they've had since the 60s because of what it meant. That means you get to play the Citadel in Florida and have everything in your favor. If you go back to 2008, after Ole Miss defeated Florida and made Tim Tebow cry and all of that, they came back and immediately lost to South Carolina. That's what made that South Carolina game so large because of what it means down the road. All of these games are going to be the biggest game in Ole Miss's history because of what it means. It's not anything to do with the opponents, so we'll see exactly how that goes. But Ole Miss should be ahead of Oregon. It'd be interesting where they put BYU, who is an undefeated at this point.
And
it'll be interesting
this weekend.
Yeah, that's going to be a really big game. It's going to be interesting to see exactly where they place Vanderbilt. Because Vanderbilt has 2 losses. Do they drop them down to like 15? It'll be really interesting to see exactly where they place them. This ranking show will be completely fascinating because we have no idea how the committee will use the criteria because it changed from a year ago. So it's going to be different than it was last year. We just don't know how.
Yeah, and I think, this is a moment for fans, media to understand, okay, Did the committee take maybe a different learning opportunity after what we went through in year one of this 12-team playoff? Were they able to analyze and learn things from what happened, what went good and what went wrong? We will find that out tonight. I think this first ranking will be very telling to understand the totality and the capabilities that the playoff has, and what the committee is wanting to do moving forward with the 12-team playoff, because it's not just about wins anymore. It's about what's looking at your schedule, the teams you beat, how did you beat them, and as well, can your players on both sides of the field compete with other teams to make this the best competition in the world?
Hey, do me a favor and log out and then log back in. You've got kind of a weird connection at the moment, and that should fix it.
Okay.
So we'll see exactly how that goes. Now, the question becomes, do you want a home game? Do you want the SEC championship, or do you just want to make the playoffs? Those are the three directions that everybody is looking at. And Ole Miss, I think Ole Miss wants the home game. They want the biggest game in the history of the state of Mississippi to happen on their campus on December 19th. That's what Ole Miss wants. They want that home game. They don't care about the SEC championship. They don't care about just making the playoffs. The perfect world, I think they're the 5 seed hosting Memphis in that first game. And the rankings are starting to come out. Tennessee made the list, believe it or not, at number 25. Pittsburgh.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Pittsburgh is number 24. And we're waiting to see for the next thing. Pitt having a nice little run. They're going to, I think they're rumored to be the opening game opponent for next year for Ole Miss. So we'll see. Mike Biggs says he thinks that Ole Miss will be the 7th ranked team, and it's hard to argue with that. Washington, number 23.
I think Oklahoma defeating Tennessee in Neyland Stadium this past weekend really helped Ole Miss in terms of just boosting their resume. And, of course, Ole Miss taking care of Oklahoma a few weekends ago in Norman. That's how you should be looking at some of these games moving forward if you're an Ole Miss fan. Who are some of these teams that you beat, and how can you kind of support them to win some big games moving forward so your resume looks a little better?
Yeah, Missouri comes in at number 22. That's kind of weird that they dropped down so low.
Yeah.
That's concerning. Michigan, number 21. They're 7-2. Did you know Michigan was 7-2? I didn't.
Did not.
Yeah, good for them, I guess. But the first 5 teams, Tennessee, Pittsburgh, Washington, Missouri, and Michigan. All right. When we come back, we are going to continue this watch along. By the time we get there, we should know exactly what is going on. So stick around for that. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on absolutely everything, from who will score next to the fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even continue and combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when you win that first $5 bet. So head to FanDuel.com today and sign up to play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Do us a favor, like, subscribe, and comment on the video. Subscribe to the podcast on whichever audio podcast you're listening to and give it a 5-star review. It costs absolutely nothing but keeps all of this free. Locked On is getting ready to change the game again in December, all in the name of having fun following your team. Check that out. More details when it's available. And don't forget to check out a second listen on the network. Nearly every team, college or pro, is ready for you. Daylan, Miami came in number 18.
Yeah.
Good grief. This season is essentially over for Miami. It's weird because just a couple of weeks ago, everybody said they were the best team in the country.
Yeah, it's crazy just how a few games can change the totality of your season and your outlook of the season, literally. And it's only a few plays as well. I mean, I know Carson Brett threw a lot of picks in that Louisville game, but if he limits one of them, does Miami have a greater chance of only having one loss right now and not sitting in number 18?
Yeah, your audio is still messing up, Daylan, by the way. So, it sounds like you're in a barrel. Georgia Tech's number 17. Vanderbilt comes in at number 16. So Vandy has a shot to make the playoffs, but they have to win out for that chance to happen. Yeah. Huh? He sounds okay? Okay. My wife said you sounded okay. So Louisville, number 15 as well. That's weird. The ACC is not getting much respect. Virginia, number 14 at 8-1. That's kind of an interesting thing.
Just try out the handy old AirPods.
Okay. Yeah, just give me a thumbs up whenever you get that situated. And we will wait and see exactly what that looks like. We got comments. If you're commenting, put where you're commenting from. We'll shout that out when we do it. All right, Daylan, how do you sound?
Can you hear me all right? Do I sound good? Am I better?
Yeah, I think you sound a little bit better. I think you sound a little bit better. All right, Utah, number 13. That's Big 12 entrant. Coming in at 7-2, number 13. That's a pretty interesting thing for a 2-loss Big 12 team to be number 13. That's kind of a big thing, honestly, for these rankings.
Yeah, they've had a quality season, but do they have a lot more resume wins to really mark on if you're Utah?
Yeah. Did Utah? Did they beat Texas Tech? Oklahoma, number 12, by the way.
I believe Utah did. I know Arizona State did.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Arizona State, by the way, lost to Mississippi State. And that's at that time, the SEC, like active leader. Number 11, are you ahead of me?
Oh yeah, I'm at Texas.
Yeah, Texas is number 11, which they needed to be number 11 because they beat Oklahoma and they have the same record. So tie goes to them. So Ole Miss is at least going to be in the top 10 in these rankings. Should be pretty interesting to see exactly how that goes. Remember, if you leave a comment, put your name on there. Producer Becky will obviously get those up as she's seeing what's going on during this while I'm watching the TV. So, Daylan, what did you think of 11 through 25? What stands out to you?
Oh, it's a great question, man. I think Missouri being as low as they were was a little surprising. I know that they are coming off a loss, but I think that Missouri's had a pretty quality season and have competed with some of the best teams in the country this year. And I think Drinkus still has them in a position to, get inside maybe the top 12 if they finish out the season strong and some things trickle down in front of them for their good favor. So probably Missouri.
Okay. Notre Dame comes in at number 10, and to nobody's surprise, Notre Dame is on the list.
Yeah.
Everybody assumed that Notre Dame would be in the top 10 for this list, but they're 6-2. I think they play next to nobody the rest of the way, so they're probably going to make the 12-team playoff.
Yeah. I really truly wonder, what the committee is looking at in terms of how the rest of the season may fare for these teams. And when I say that, I mean in terms of opponents that these teams will face inside the top 10 for the rest of the season. I wonder, does the SEC championship game, Big Ten championship game kind of go into effect for these type of early rankings this season?
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to see. Number 9. I'm trying to think in number 9, Oregon. So Ole Miss is ahead of the Oregon Ducks where they should be. Oregon's best win is against Northwestern. And by the way, nobody's going to talk about this. Northwestern got dog walked by Tulane, who Ole Miss beat 45-10. But Oregon, that is Oregon's best win. They got dog walked themselves by Indiana, who potentially has a chance to be number 1 in these rankings. But Oregon coming in at number 9, that is interesting to me. And again, when all this is done, we'll talk about some of the matchups and who's playing who and all of that stuff. But Oregon would be the road team in the 8-9 game in these college football playoffs. So we'll see exactly what happens. Oregon Ducks, number 9. That's probably good news for Ole Miss. Now, you have Ole Miss, you have Bama, you have Georgia, you have Texas A&M. Out of the last, half of this is going to be SEC teams. You have Ohio State, you have Indiana. BYU is going to be in this list as well. And Texas Tech. And there's Texas Tech, number 8.
Yep.
So it's getting interesting with everything that's popping up. Texas Tech, number 8. Listen,
there's number 7. BYU
BYU
comes in
number
number
7.
7.
Okay. So it looks like I think Ole Miss is going to be number 6.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be the ideal spot potentially to all this, because you're playing what, Virginia? Would that be Virginia? Because they're the
Right.
highest ranked
Yes,
ACC team.
Correct.
And the 5 seed would probably be Georgia, and they would get Memphis potentially. Anyway, Ole Miss number 6. We're going to take a break real quick. When we come back, we will finish this watch along up, and we will talk about some of the matchups that are going to be had. So stick around for that. College football is back, and I could not be much more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real, actually getting tickets can feel more like a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time. It gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I pulled up the Game Time app in just a couple of taps. I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football games for as low as $25. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. That could come in handy with Florida coming into town. Download the Game Time app. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. All right. Ole Miss coming in at number 6 in the college football playoff rankings. Indiana number 2, Ohio State at number 1, A&M number 3. I think Alabama at 4, Georgia at 5, Ole Miss at 6. That's the way we wrapped all of that up. Now, what that means, we'll see whenever they decide what's going on. I think with the ACC and the G5 being outside of the top 12, only the top 10 get in. 11 and 12 are on the outside looking in, if I'm not mistaken.
You're correct.
Yeah, so we'll see.
First teams out are Texas and Oklahoma.
Yes, first teams out, Texas and Oklahoma. Ole Miss has they have to put them up together in the beginning of the game. Ohio State, that's probably the Rose Bowl if we're going to be honest. Texas A&M would probably be the Sugar Bowl. Indiana would be the Orange Bowl maybe. I'll have to see exactly where those games are and what's going on, but that'll be on January 1st and December 31st. Ole Miss is on the side of the bracket with BYU, Indiana, and Texas A&M in that pod right now.
Mm-hmm.
You need probably number 14, Virginia, going to be in there.
Yeah.
So Ole Miss versus Virginia in the first round, with the winner going to likely the Sugar Bowl to play Texas A&M. That's a pretty good draw if we're going to be completely honest about it.
Definitely a competitive draw, and a draw that Ole Miss can make some moves in and make a run for a compete for a national championship. I love that draw. If you're Ole Miss, you get to face a ACC team that you really don't have much history with in Virginia, and bringing out 2 great fan bases, and of course the A&M and Lane Kiffin rivalry runs deep as well.
Yeah, it should be pretty interesting there. I think every Ole Miss fan would be pretty happy with that draw if it stayed that way. Now, it won't stay that way because there's still a lot of football left to be played.
Yeah.
But right now, you look at that and it's like, hey, we're sitting pretty at the moment. Ole Miss at number 6. That means if you went out, you could potentially have a bye game. You could get into that 4th seed. You only have to move up 2 spaces to get there.
Yeah, I think you look at, some of these conference championship games, how those games may affect some rankings in terms of, are some of these conference championship games blowouts. Georgia, Alabama. Any team in front of Ole Miss has the capabilities of losing games as the season goes on. This is still a very competitive league, and Ole Miss just has to, keep the mentality they've had this season, go 1-0, and focus on the game in front of them, and everything really is in destiny for this Ole Miss team. It's just so funny to me, man. Before the season started, I think a lot of people went into the notion that this was going to be a rebuild type of season for Ole Miss. As much as the talent was lost from last year's team, and they're sitting prime and ready, number 6 in the first weekend in November, and have a great chance to finishing off some history here in Ole Miss.
But do you know what else I saw? If Oklahoma can beat Alabama straight up, there's a chance Alabama's on the outside looking in the playoff.
Definitely. I think you look at the totality of the Florida State loss for them, and they've been on a hot run over the last few weeks, but I definitely think Brent Venables understood the mission after losing to Ole Miss, and he had to have told his players that, look, if we want to compete at the end of the season, we cannot, afford to lose any other games. And I think they went down to Tennessee this past weekend and understood that, and they took care of business at the highest order. And Oklahoma's a great football team. Don't get it twisted. This team plays both sides of the ball really well, and can compete with anybody in the country. And I think Alabama showed themselves against South Carolina that they're vulnerable and they have weak spots, and they can be beaten by a team that does things well on both sides of the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I just really like that 6 seed. The fact that if you get Virginia and then you're on the BYU, Texas A&M, all of that, I think that is a very good draw for Ole Miss fans, and they'd be completely excited about that. Anyway, Daylan, what do you got going on this week? What's your plans for the Citadel?
You know what? I'm going to be honest. I'm actually not going to be in town for the Citadel. I'll be back home this weekend, so won't be in town. So everyone, cheer on the Rebs as loud as you can, and make sure they bring home the win. But just got a lot of school is schooling right now. I'll tell you guys that. Remember your college days and how much November starts hitting in. But yeah, I won't be here this weekend, but I'll still be, around and watching the game and checking out what Ole Miss does this weekend.
All right. Daylan Flowers from the Rebel Walk. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, man. And thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves on offering the most comprehensive perspectives, which is why we're the front door of Ole Miss. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. It helps the show, and it's absolutely free. Your support means the world to us. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen, but for your second listen, check out Locked On SEC. Chris Gordy breaks down the best conference in college sports, from the rivalries to the championship and every game in between. Find Locked On SEC on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We will be doing these watch-alongs for every ranking release that Ole Miss is a part of, so we will have that. Hotty-toddy, everybody, and remember, analytics is just the old English word that means bad football. We'll see you tomorrow.